Radio 100.5 FM and coopradio.org. It's 5 o'clock and it's Metis Matters Radio time!
The views expressed and opinions given by myself, the host, Derrick Whiteskycloud, and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of those at CFRO 100.5 FM, your cooperative radio network and its affiliates and or sponsors. Everybody, how you guys all doing out there? Tansi wow. And yes, that's the midship language. It means hello, how are you all doing? Thank you guys for joining me in the CFRO 100.5 FM, and thank you for joining us on the YouTube chat room right now. And I'm not on Facebook right now. This Facebook still has me, I would say, down for another almost 2 more weeks. So well, you know, when you voice an opinion, they have to kick you out. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people who just voice an opinion, even if it's indigenous, anything to do with Métis indigenous. And you argue with someone, next thing you know, if they don't like it, they kick you out. So, yeah, there's actually some, somebody was starting some sort of, it kind of called racial tension between other Métis organizations. And I guess, it basically it's become a bit of a racist issue, and I'll call it racist because there are some organizations, some Métis organizations in the East, not the Ontario, I'm talking about more like Manitoba, people who represent the Manitoba Métis Federation have decided to become, I guess the representatives of, decided to do a little bit of racial tension, and I use the word racist tension, between other Métis organizations. And it's become, I guess you'd say, a little too, I'm not going to say sensitive, but more, I don't know why they intend to insult people continuously where, you know, give up, folks, leave them alone. Leave us alone. Look, we all have a life that we want to live. And yet, for some reason, it's like there's people out there that want to say you don't belong or you're not one of us. You do the words us. You're not included. It's like really like they just have to keep on harping and attacking. And even though we've had so much proof through the courts to give us all an identity, you're basically saying, since the 1982 Constitution, and yet now it's not as much the government. The government's not even touching us. The government's not saying anything bad about us. Now the government loves this. They love us arguing amongst each other. I mean, really, they do. I'm telling you, it's just got to be the point where they're just looking for nothing. Like they sit there and watch us. The government watches us infighting. This is very normal through the generations. I mean, it's always like, well, you guys are fighting amongst each other, so we're not responsible. The people that started up, actually, normally it's always the government starts something up, and then they'll say, well, we'll leave it to you guys and you take care of it. Next thing you know, we're fighting amongst each other or argue amongst each other, and then they just stand back and watch us argue, and they enjoy it. we become the entertainment. So it comes to the point, folks, that we can only say and do so much for our community. And even though we are stretched all across Canada, and I will say Canada, from the west to the east, I'm in the West Coast, and there's people out there. Big shout out to everybody out there in the east, throughout Canada and the East Coast, or we call Turtle Island. I have a lot of friends out in those areas and family as well. Like I said before, there's a lot of people out there that have a tendency of still raising Cain, so to speak, and some will even go as far as trying to ruin other people's reputations, and they try to say they have exposed them, which they have not. What I understood is the truth was, I guess the people that decided to do their research found out more about their family background, and they've proven themselves as who they are through identity. But this is basically what's happening. This is where people have a tendency of having to dig. They want every sensitive word, every sensitive family. And for example, they use the name, the word Acadian, it's been around for a long, long time. Now, I remember years and years ago when I was a kid growing up, we knew the Acadians were Métis, but we didn't use the word Métis. Acadians were a group of their own. They're not just French. There was indigenous folks. I mean, they're indigenous people mixed with the Acadians for generations. But when the British came in, or the French came in and took over, and if you remember the history, the Acadians lost a lot of people in their village because they were trying to take over their town by killing all the men and basically trying to take over. I mean, it was not a good story. But the Acadians now, they are their own culture. They are their own identity. They're not making claims. They are who they are. That's why they use, if you go to those towns and you'll see the Acadian flag and you see all the symbols of everything Acadian, they take great pride of who they are. Whether they speak French, whether they speak Michif, whether they speak Bungi, because it's mixed in there, they still are an identified people. But there are some other folks in the mid-coast or say Manitoba, mostly Manitoba, they still have a tendency of saying, nope, the Acadians have nothing to do with us. They're not Métis. They're just whatever, French. And like I keep on hearing that story over and over again. It's like they're picking on them. If they're not picking on them, they're picking on somebody else. If they're not picking on the MNO, if they're not picking on the MNOC, they're picking on the Nova Scotia Métis, and even Saskatchewan now and Alberta, and they're picking on the BC region. Like, it's getting to be nuts, folks. I mean, literally, this Manitoba Métis Federation, one of them, and the MNC, Métis National Council, they're just playing through. I mean, the last couple of years is nothing but attack of senseless bickering and control. If you think about it, bickering and control. They just want to be. I mean, these guys, whether it's Chartrand, Charchet, Goudon, those are the three. Okay, and I don't appreciate what Goudon's doing. I mean, you guys can voice an opinion, but Goudon actually now is doing some major attacks of Métis. He's and they make memes or memes. I don't know what they call them. And now he was trying to create a joke. He thinks it's a joke to get people to come up with memes to pick on the Métis, or the Métis of the East. That's racist, folks. You're looking for a racial war. That's being a racist. I mean, like, I'm sorry. I mean, I can name names, but I'm not going to go and insult them either. I'm not going to insult back, but I really feel that that's wrong. Come on, let these folks have their lives. But if you guys want to go out there and hurt folks and attack them all the time and not allow them to enjoy their lives, leave them alone. You know what I mean? Let them enjoy their lives of who they are. I've got my good friends, Robert Bois, who's good friends of, he's from the Ontario region. We've got also Mr. Keith up in Saskatchewan. There's so many great people out there that have really take great delight and pride of their family background. Great deal of pride, and there's, Robert's just saying Gabriel Dumont his father was Acadian. Oh, there you go. His father was Acadian, but the MMF would deny it. They'll say no. And it's the same thing with Riel. They would say, oh no, he was born here. They have nothing to do with Montreal, nothing French. And the thing is that when you start to create a Métis only group, you become separatists, just like Quebec. Okay, I mean, I'm not insulting Quebec, but Quebec decided to become separatist because they didn't like the politics of how Canada treats its people. I don't blame Quebec to be a separatist country. They want to be all French, then let them be all French. That's their choice. If the public wants to go that way, let them. See, the thing is that it's not us that's complaining. It's the people that want to be the leader, that wants to they want to control people like you and I and tell us what to do, you should be. I talk about this a lot, but that's why my show is called Metis Matters Radio, because it matters. We share the matters and the stories about what's going on in our community, and whether it's last week, next year, last year, there's so many repeats of how things are. Now, I'm hearing continuous stories and seeing so many continuous stories of people. And it's not the public themselves. I mean, now, and also what I hear something else that I find that's quite offensive. When people are in the social networks, and they're when someone starts a little bit of a trouble, okay, a little bit of an insult to a certain Métis organization, then all of a sudden there's other groups of people that are in the background that don't belong to those organizations, and they make the attack. I mean, literally in the social networks, they make the attack and the attack and the attack to the point of insult. And then they're telling all of those folks that are the originals, oh, they'll say it's none of your business, or you don't know what you're talking about, you're crazy, you're this. And even words, worse, they'd actually get so insulting, absolutely insulting. And I tell people, if you really want to say something, then phone call it in, or face to face, talk to each other, instead of having to throw insults. And then you also hear, I see people actually hearing stories from other folks that are also attacking others. And do they're doing virtual attacking, whether it's on social networks or in the news media, especially CBC. I will mention their name. And CBC follows up on it, and they didn't do the research, but they're going to follow the story by what that person had said. So whether they believe it or not, but they love to hurt. They go with the narrative of the story. Then they find out later that they were wrong what they had done editorially sharing that story, because they did say they supported it. Next thing you know, now even CBC is being sued. And you know what? It serves them right for being too vindictive or too malicious, or they decide to do the attack. You know what, folks? You're not safe. When I tell people that you think you work for someone, and you think that you want to follow what someone tells you, do your due diligence, do your research first before you believe every story that comes out. Really. Do it thoroughly because what happens is you end up hurting other people's families, and you make the attack. And these people think that they found all the major research on that person or persons, and they'll say, oh, I'm exactly right. I did all the research on them, and they did this and they did that. No. And they made the attack, and then they say, why would you want to deal with this person who actually they're accusing you of saying you're a liar? Right? They didn't talk to the person themselves personally, who they're making an attack on. They want to do the background check, and they're not police officers. They're not military. They will spend the money, their own money, or government money. Not even government money. There's money that's given to them by the government, so they can actually do a history check on you and see if they actually have all the history on you. And what they find out later, they never found all the truth. But they're going to make up more lies than they will say the truth. And then next thing you know, in the end, they screwed up. You don't make a total destruction of someone's life and career. But if you think that's what you want to do, and you think you take great pride in doing it because you love to be vindictive of hurting people and destroying their lives, then you're just as bad as all what's going on right now in this world. You can hurt, and it's not a good thing to hurt other people. We're supposed to be, if you're going to do, when someone says to you, we were all in this together to fight for what's right, we are all in this together, but there's always going to be someone out there that's going to make the major attack, and they're going to hurt other people. And I don't think it's right. Absolutely not. I mean, I love everyone for their support and strength. You know, that's why I do radio. That's why I've actually joined in to help the late Ken Fisher to carry Metis Matters Radio on. But I want to reach out to all through the west, the east, from the west to the east coast, because everyone here in Canada has no idea what's going on in Nova Scotia, what's not going on in as far even New Brunswick, all across Canada, right to Ontario, to Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, all those provinces, and even local communities, what's going on in their community. Like I like to share those stories, as I like to let people know that here's what they're doing down there. But why do we always have to keep on attacking each other? Because one group says, well, I don't like what you do or who you are because I don't think you are who you are. Well, prove it first before you decide to make the attack. And if you do, why don't you talk to them first before you decide to make any decisions? Talk to them in person. Let them make and if you have proof, absolute proof, that person, whether they're not Métis or whatever thing that you say they did or did not do, do your work first. I mean, seriously. If you guys there are people out there, and I've been seeing this in so many social networks. Facebook is almost, it's just as bad. I mean, we are trying to help each other in the community for support, and then there's always a group of people in there, and all they want to do is hurt, and attack. I know you guys you're in lockdown in Manitoba, and nobody in Ontario is even attacking you guys. I don't think they are as much, but Manitoba is, they're just looking for something to do. So I guess they decided to start attacking people. And I'm not saying all of Manitoba, but just certain groups of people that are part of the Manitoba Bay Federation. And there's actually another Métis or association in there. They're not hurting anybody. They're sitting back going like, I'm not getting involved in that. They won't. They're just watching you guys humiliate each other or humiliate yourself. You know, like, and there are people, the young ones. I really do support the young people, the young Métis, that are fighting back and speaking up for themselves. And they also don't even agree what some of the organizations are doing, especially in Manitoba. I'm bringing it up because that's from there. I'm actually from there. But they don't like what Mr. Chartrand is doing. I went on their website to have a look to see what Mr. David Chartrand has done. I mean, mind you, he's worked real hard for years to try to help make sure the Métis were recognized. That's great. That's wonderful. But now it's come to the point where he's not treating it more like a Métis pride. He's making it more of a Métis attack. Like now he figures it's time to attack other people. Like we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to attack this, attack that. And it's not attacking as in trying to help support folks. It's attacking and try to destroy people's lives. And I've seen so many of these board meetings from a distance, just watching them. I mean, come on. It's wonderful to be proud of who you are. And I'm proud of who I am. I never claimed to be Red River Métis. I never have. And never will. I claim to be who I am. I'm born this way, how I was raised this way. My grandmother told me who I was. I believe her. My Kokum. I believe her first over anyone else. And any government tells or writes on a piece of paper and saying, oh no, they didn't come from there. Yes, not every time they, and they say, oh no, they come. Yes, they did. Certain places I already know where my grandmother came from. And those written words on a piece of paper are not all entirely true. Because I already know where she came from. Because there are relatives that came to see me from the Nova Scotia region and know her and knew her personally and said she was a great woman, that they remembered her when she was a young girl, a young woman. And yet people say, oh no, she was never from there. No. I had cousins I met at an event, new cousins that I did not know existed. And they knew my grandmother. They knew the stories about her, the one that was taken away and forced labor. She was a slave, became a slave. Not just her alone. There's over 100 kids taken from the Mi'kmaq Reserve back in the late 1800s and sold. And yet the government covers it up. Why? Because they know very well it's a shame. They were making money on this. So what do you think everybody hates MacDonald when he was the first Prime Minister of Canada? He didn't like us. In fact, he wanted to remove all the First Nations, anything to do with Native, Indigenous. He wanted to remove all of us off the world. He was a white racer. That was his goal. That was what he was told to do. And yet, we all fought back and tried to claim our rights as who we are. This is what it's all about. When I share stories in my columns and about what's going on in the community, it's for all of you to know what's going on, because a lot of people, like I said before, across Canada have no one actually, not everybody knows what's going on, because people say, I didn't know that. Shock, shock. I've met new cousins that I have not even heard of that existed. In fact, I have got cousins that I actually told last night, not cousins, but nieces, my nieces and great nieces told them last night that they're Métis. And their grandmother was a fiddler. They didn't know. Well, they didn't think it was strong enough, or, how far back do you have to go to be a Métis? Well, I said to my niece, I says, you're third generation and your daughters are fourth generation. You can get your Métis citizenship. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you can only and her thoughts were from grandma to dad, and that's it. Someone told her from her great grandmother to her father, no, her grandmother, yeah, be her grandmother, to her father, and then that's it, cuts it off. No, that's not true. Your life carries on. There's 7 to 8 generations. If there's more coming into the family, it carries on. But that's how it works. Sorry, but that's how it works, folks. I mean, I pretty well have an idea. I'm not going to go back to 1600s and say, oh, well, my ancestor is Pocahontas. I mean, that she is. Truthfully, she is. Because my grandmother, Robert Henry Rolfe, who was actually the ancestor of John Rolfe, who married her, I think it was okay. I think it's cool. That's how I discovered it, because my grandfather had the documents. The documents were in his envelope. I actually seen the leather envelope. I seen the documents myself personally at the age of 13. I seen them myself. I wouldn't lie to you, because it was the British Commonwealth that wrote to him and told him, this is who your ancestors are. And my grandfather never asked for it, because he just wanted to get his pension, but he couldn't get his pension from Ottawa because he was from England. When he was a boy, he was sent here by the Dr. Bernardo's orphanage. And by the way, he was kidnapped and sent that direction towards Canada. They took him. He wasn't supposed to be taken away. My great-grandmother did not give him up. But because at the time, during the time that she was quite ill, and there's no way she could have taken care of them, so the Dr. Bernardo's orphanages, what their job was supposed to be is to take care of the children until they get back on their feet, and they come back and get their kids. And she had 3 of them that she dropped off. What I found out later, there was actually 6 of them that she dropped off. But after my mom passed away. So those kids came in the front door and out the back door and on the ships, and off they went to other countries. My grandfather came to Canada, and his brother came to Canada, and his sister came to Canada. And yet they were treated like dogs, put into a dog house. They were farm labor. They were purchased. They were bought. They weren't saying, oh, you're going to work for me. What I heard from my grandmother or grandfather when he told me when I was 8 years old, he said it was really hard. And then whatever story he told my mom told me. So the thing is that we have history. But it's not in the census. Not everything goes into the census. Some people that came to Canada are not even in the census. There's some stories. There's written paper. That's normal. It doesn't really say where they're really from. Because they had to cover up, because all to do with the church records. They had to cover up the mistakes. They had to cover up their lies. And the churches are known for that. They cover up their lies. I'm sure people have actually talked about that as well. Anyways, I thought I'd share that with you folks. That was an interesting story regarding that. We're going to go into a break. We're bottom of the hour, and you're watching and listening to Metis Matters Radio on the CFRO 100.5 FM.
Honey.
I really wanted a coffee.
Where are you? You've been there forever.
Come on. You know what? You think you're the boss.
But I'm the boss here. Derrick will be right back after he gets my coffee.
Vancouver Cooperative Radio is an innovative, non-profit community radio station with a mission to produce creative and engaging programming for communities whose voices are underrepresented in the mainstream media. We need your financial support to help us achieve this mission. By donating today, you will help us to continue providing access to training and equipment for over 300 volunteers who produce 140 hours of original programming in over 10 languages. Since 1975, we've celebrated the rich cultural diversity of the Greater Vancouver area through our arts, music, and spoken word programming. Please support alternative community-based radio. You can donate today by visiting coopradio.org or calling 604-684-8494. That's 604-684-8494.
Co-op Radio is your home for multicultural programming. We broadcast in over 8 languages, including Armenian, Amharic, French, Polish, Romanian, Spanish, Tagalog, and Vietnamese. We also host programs covering Hawaiian, Celtic, Caribbean, Jewish, and African music styles from across the globe. Want to hear programming in a language you speak? Co-op Radio can train you on the broadcast skills you need to start a new show. Go to coopradio.org to learn more and contact us today.
Tune in to Late Night with Savages every Wednesday from 11 to midnight. Join your host, Faline Jules, and her series of red-blooded radio broadcasters as we enjoy experimental spoken word performances, late-night tea parties, updates from frontline workers, and fresh poetic and musical savagery. Tune in as we decolonize the airwaves every Wednesday from 11 to midnight. Late Night with Savages on Vancouver Co-op Radio.
Honey.
Yes, we're back, folks. And you're listening to Metis Matters Radio on the CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm your host, Derrick Whiteskycloud. That was JJ LaValle, and the song was called Maple Sugar, and it's a really good song. JJ actually is originally from Manitoba. Some people call him LaValle or Lavalle. And he's a fiddle player, and he's a 2-time Indigenous Award-winning fiddle player it was actually on a few years back. So he now resides in Cloverdale, British Columbia, and a lot of people love to be entertained by him. He works with the BC Métis Federation a lot. He's actually one of the board members, one of the directors, but he's also, whenever he's needed, we call upon him, and he comes out and entertains us everywhere we are able to travel to. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So yeah, me and a boy and my toys. And those are seeing me in the chat room. Yes, I got my, this is Pierre the pup, the Métis mutt. He looks, I always tell people, like, he's a part sheepdog, and and his father is an old sea dog. It's like his mother's part poodle and father's old sea dog. So he always goes, I need tea. So yeah, that's where we go. I have a lot of fun with this guy. He's actually one of my first puppets that I entertained with when I work with the people when I do shows. But I've got a lot of new characters I've been making this past year and a half. And I have another guy back behind me on my other shoulder here, and that's Jacques. And I put a beard on the guy. I did on him. He looked too perfect, so I had to make him look like as if he was a bushman. Again, like a little bit more like a trapper, fisherman, that sort of thing. Yeah, so he's pretty busy out there. And oh, cool. Okay, everybody's looking for, hey, who's in the chat room? Thank you guys for joining me in the YouTube chat room and not in Facebook, because like I said before, Facebook actually gave me the boot for a couple of weeks, and so it's been not ongoing all the time, but that's what happens, right? We have our little issues with Facebook, but that's nothing new. I'm sure everybody's experienced it by some means. Anyways, I want to talk about the virtual Indigenous Peoples Day coming up, folks, and that's June 21st. Every year, on June 21st, everyone has their Indigenous Day, National Indigenous Day, all across Canada and possibly even the United States. And but because they talk about the COVID and they're still, making a big deal about it, they're basically pointing out that what the FRAFCA, which is a Surrey Friendship Center in Surrey, British Columbia here, they decided to set up a page on YouTube, and that'll be coming up June 21st, 2021 from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And they'll be putting that on the YouTube. Also, basically would say celebrating the rich culture and history of Indigenous peoples in Canada, Surrey National Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations and wellness event hosted by the Surrey's local land-based First Nations, Semiahmoo, Kwantlen, and Katzie First Nations, brings together the Métis and Inuit families through a celebration of culture and traditions of Indigenous people. We acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Salish peoples, including the Semiahmoo, the Kwantlen, and the Katzie. So yeah, and I've actually was not on the board, but I was actually I've been involved with this Surrey Friendship Center for years. I would say since 2005, and because we were next door to the Surrey, or to our Surrey region, our Métis Family Services, because I was actually a counselor for Métis Family Services. Yeah, so that's coming up 21st of June, and actually I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of virtual events, First Nations events all across whether it's YouTube, Facebook, you name it, it'll be all over. Oh, pardon why? Holy God. Suddenly I had a yawn. I don't know why. I'm not tired. But no, that wasn't boring. Someone says, maybe it was boring. No, it wasn't boring. So let's see what else is coming up. We've also have let's see here. I'm going to bring this one story in. I would say this one here. Yes. Okay. The Métis specific daycare with 112 spaces to be built in Kamloops. So here in British Columbia in Kamloops, this is written in the province is funding 112 childcare spaces in Kamloops for the Métis children. The Lee Machif Optimisiwak Family and Community Services Agency will be working with the Métis Nation BC to build a new facility. The executive director, Colleen Lucier, says both parties are working to secure a site, which she says will likely be central and close to the public transit. The daycare will be called the Optimistawak Center, means one of the free people. Lucier says the goal is opened in the spring of 2023. And the goal is that we're going to create a Métis-specific child care center for the children 0 to the age of 12, and included in that is a breakfast program and after-school program. And while they are providing child care spaces, which are desperately needed in Kamloops, we also want to be very healing place, a place where families feel supported and where children see themselves reflected in the books and the toys and the environment they're surrounded in. Now, she says that the new childcare space will cost about $3 million to build. And today, the province also has announced funding for 24 children's childcare spaces in Barrier, British Columbia, at a daycare to be built at a new affordable housing complex in town core. And that daycare will open the fall of 2022. Funding for another 8 childcare spaces will also be announced for the Bridge River Indian Band north of Lillooet, where an existing daycare will be renovated and expanded. So we have a lot of cool care centers coming up, folks. Yeah, wow. What can I say? Anyways, we are putting in, okay. Now, when they mentioned Barrier, and when I read Barrier and went, oh my God, that's pretty well almost a village. I mean, it's a town, but Barrier is really small. And actually, it's kind of interesting. They actually have in Barrier right now, there's a TV series. I'm not sure if you guys know this. It's called Back Road Truckers. It's actually based out of Barrier, BC. It's actually a TV series happening on the Discovery Channel. And a couple of people that are on the program are actually Indigenous themselves. So it's all to do with tow trucking. And these guys are competing with each other on TV. It's called Back Road Truckers. And it's based out of Barrier. So you got to watch it. It's funny as heck. My wife gets so caught up in it. She just sees some of these guys as heels, so to speak. So, yeah, what can I say? Now, okay, here's someone's asking a question. Is anyone doing anything in Batoche for the 21st of June? Well, we'll find out. We'll have to put the word out for all you folks. If June 21st, if everyone's doing anything happening in Batoche, let others know. People are actually inquiring about that right here in the YouTube chat room. Okay. Let's see here. Coming up too. That's one of the editorials. Now we have one also I find a little quite concerning. The Métis Nation of British Columbia statement on the F and First Nations, I think it's LC, rejection of Métis rights in British Columbia. The Métis Nation of British Columbia recognizes the inherent rights of First Nations in British Columbia and does not seek to take territory or funding away from First Nations. Under Section 35 of Canada's Constitution, there are 3 distinct Aboriginal peoples, the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. There is no hierarchy of rights under the Constitution. Métis Nation rights are unique to First Nations rights and have unique timeframes and legal tests. The Supreme Court in Daniels confirmed that a duty to consult Métis are already settled law. Under the BC Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, DRIPA, the province of British Columbia recognizes that all relations with Indigenous peoples need to be based on the recognition and implementation of their right to self-determination, including the inherent right of self-government under the DRIPA, DRIPA, Indigenous peoples, has the same meaning as Aboriginal peoples in Section 35 of the Constitutional Act 1982, and the Indigenous governing body means an entity that is authorized to act on behalf of Indigenous peoples that hold rights recognized and affirmed by Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982. Métis have the inherent right to self-government in BC. At MNBC's 2020 annual general meeting, our citizens voted for self-government with the ultimate goal to raise the education, health, and economic outcomes for our Métis people while supporting our chartered communities as they work to preserve and perpetuate, Métis culture, language, and heritage for future generations. MMBC, the Métis Nation of British Columbia, agrees and welcomes the commitment from First Nations to work alongside Métis people on issues of shared concern, such as improvement of social, health, and economic outcomes, and elimination of racism and discrimination. These collaborations must be founded on the recognition of the different histories of First Nations and Métis people, and that what is now British Columbia, and be grounded in an appropriate data and evidence. MMBC welcomes the opportunity to work with First Nations to better advance the cause of all Indigenous people in BC, and is open to meet with First Nations leadership. In that regard, we have extended an invitation to meet the First Nations leadership. Indigenous peoples are stronger when we work together to address the common issues and challenges that we face. And that's signed Nick. That's basically written by Nick Hassanzadeh. I could be wrong. Hassanzadeh. Wow, that's a different kind of a name. That's probably is written by him. Yeah, Nick Hassan, Hosseinzadeh. Okay, that's European of some sort, folks. Not sure. At Emmons, and it's basically just N Hassanzadeh at mmbc.ca. Oh man, what can I say? So, reason why I'm mentioning the story, because apparently MMBC somehow gets themselves in a little bit of trouble, but there has been a lot of First Nations folks that don't care too much for the Métis. They think that we have no territory, no rights whatsoever, because they believe it's just them alone. So that's the only thing that, they have to say in the matter. We do respect, myself as a Métis person, I work with the BC Métis Federation, not the MMBC, but Métis Federation, and we respect but what we like to do is work together and not apart. And I myself as a person, I've been working with the First Nations community for many, many years, and I've never ever harmed or insulted anyone. I know there's a few of the people of the Coast Salish, they used to believe that us as a Métis, that we actually killed their hairy dog, because they have a hairy dog. Well, they had the hairy dog breed or type of dog that they used to shave their hair to make their socks, to basically to weave their socks. They're part of the traditional socks goes from the calf down to the heel, and they would wear that. These particular types of, they're sacred, they're important, and that's part of the regalia in their longhouse ceremonies. So someone started a rumor many years ago that the Métis, because we were known as the hunters and trappers, but they believed that we hunted the dog down, the hairy dog, and that we are the killers. They believe that we are the ones that hunted them out and killed them out, wiped them out. We never did, because there's no proof. There's no history to prove that any Métis ever hunted out a dog. Why would you want to shoot a dog? It has no reason, purpose whatsoever. We are not that way. In fact, we believe the dog is important to us to do the hunting for us. So why would you want to hunt a dog for? Makes no sense. Okay? And I'll tell you why. If you look at Barkerville, for example, and we're going to change up a little bit more, but there's actually a lot of the Métis actually migrated up to Barkerville, British Columbia, to mine gold. Okay? And in that area, there was a fellow who was Métis himself, and he heard about using camels to carry goods on their backs. So this fellow, who this lady I know, this is her uncle, that there's a photograph of her uncle who actually has a camel, and he was a gold miner, and he would carry the gold on the back of this camel. Okay. He ordered the camel from Saudi Arabia, and he got two of them, right? He got a small one and a large one. And this is a true story, folks. This is back in the 1860s. So this is her great uncle who actually had a camel, and he, that's what he had. He was carrying the gold. It made it a whole lot easier to carry gold out on a camel than it was a mule, or even using two mules. So I guess one day, this guy who had his camel decided to go behind the bush to relieve himself. He came back and heard a gunshot, a big like a shotgun, and he seen his camel laying on his side dead, with all the gold laying next to him. And the guy goes like, "What the heck's going on here?" From a distance, this guy thought he shot a moose. He killed his own camel. True story. He killed the guy's camel because he thought it was a moose. The guy that shot him was not even a true hunter nor a true fisherman. He was just a guy looking for something to eat. When the guy realized, when he walked up to that camel and it had two humps on it, he goes like, "I never seen a moose like that before." True story. I got the photograph. So these things can happen. Not everybody is foolish enough to shoot something or hunt something out, especially hairy dogs. We're not interested in any hairy dogs, never did. I spoke to a friend of mine whose grandfather migrated here, and he said they heard the story about the hairy dog belonging to the Coast Salish people out in the northern region of British Columbia, but they've never, ever in their lives, and his grandfather never would ever bother. Why would you want to hunt a dog? Because we use the dogs to go hunting with. But that's how things get turned around. This is the reason why a lot of the First Nations don't like us too much, because they believe all these made-up stories, rumors, that we were the bad guys. We were never, ever the bad guys. We was always respectful. We did follow the trap lines along the British Columbia region, okay, along the areas of Thompson River, okay, the Thompson River. A lot of the Métis did have trap lines all the way up to Jasper. Okay, they had trap lines all the way from Jasper all the way to Kamloops. I've been told that's been going on for a long time. They had trap lines along the Thompson River, and that's 2, 3, 4 generations. I think they were saying around the mid 1800s. So that's been ongoing. But a lot of times you hear a lot of First Nations people say, "No, I don't agree. You're wrong." But yet, why am I told these other trappers that actually lived out there in that region, Thompson region, they're passing from generations, saying, "Yes, we trapped out there. We have been trapping out there." Anyways, folks, I want to thank you guys for joining me on the program, Metis Matters Radio, and thank you guys for being part of our chat room and sharing what's going on. And also, if you guys can, if you actually have any stories you want to share, any events are coming up, please email me at metismattersradio@gmail.com. Have any comments on the program? I'd love to hear from you. And like I said before, I don't have any hate for anyone. I dislike everyone trying to, argue and insult each other. What I prefer to is let's work things out through the times. It's going to be ongoing for the rest of our lives and even the next generation. So anyway, we're going to love you and leave you guys. So let's see. I'm going to go out here with Andrew Menard. It's been a long time since I played her. So it's just called Métis Hands. You guys take care of yourselves. Kwapitanina.
When the voyageurs first came, ils n'attendaient pas d'être pères. Of a new nation sur une vieille terre, ils fiers of their newfound family, dont jouisseur tu es frère. Look in these Métis eyes, hold these Métis hands. We're all held together by love, by this land. We are family. We're all family. When the winds of change were upon them, the ladies braced the wind. They opened up their hearts and homes and took the strangers in. Elles prévoyaient l'avenir. They saw their baby's eyes, burnt wood faces under prairie skies. Look in these Métis eyes, hold these Métis hands. We're all held together by love, by this land. We are family. We're all family. Écoutez mes enfants, l'histoire vous appartient. C'est écrit dans la ceinture fléchée, c'est écrit dans vos mains. Children, listen, the future's in your hands. Weave together our story, strand by strand. Look in these Métis eyes, hold these Métis hands. We're all held together by love, by this land. We are family. We're all family. Nous sommes famille.
If you want to listen to us anywhere you travel, you can go into your Google Play Store and then download the Radio Player Canada app, and you can listen to your favorite radio station, Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM.